So let's get started. Before I get into the topic, I just want to recap that Endeavor, we're a global network, trust network, where we support founders in their journey to scale their companies. But we don't only focus on the business, we also focus on the entrepreneur and the importance of how they take care of themselves, how they access different types of resources so that they can scale their companies. So for example, mentorship, investors, and other type of resources. But also we help them, whenever they're having any challenges, personal challenges with their own, wellness or mental health, we try to also connect them with people that can either coaches or other entrepreneurs that have gone through that journey so that they can talk about it. So later, I have invited an Endeavor entrepreneur who will talk to you about his own journey and how he burnt out really bad and how he bounced back and now what he's doing with his life. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation with him. I'll have him speak about his trajectory when he started multiple companies, how he got to the point of burnout, and how he's focusing on doing different things now in the present moment to take care of himself. His name is Santiago, so he will be joining at 11 a.m. So as we talk more about mental health and wellness, this is something that a lot of people are talking more and more about. What is mental health? What is wellness? And so it can be a variety of different modalities. You can be practicing different things, right? Like breath work, meditation, etc. But I want to take a step back and understand, like, really, what does mental health and wellness mean? So for me, is asking yourself the question, how am I doing today? Like in the present moment, am I able to sleep well? Am I able to, lower my stress? How is my stress level? Where in my body am I feeling this stress? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my heart? Is it in my head? Sometimes when we are very stressed, we start getting mental fog, and that means that you can't really process the information. You read emails, but you're not really understanding the emails or understanding how to write emails. Sometimes you rewrite or reread things because you're not really your mind is so busy, it can't really focus. And so that is a sign of, burnout. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. And then different type of tools that you can incorporate into your daily lives to also lower your cortisol, because when your cortisol is really high in your body, it starts affecting not only, the way you function and think, but also your body starts giving you signs and asking for help. Please pay attention to the body. So let's take a look at some of the statistics. 72% of entrepreneurs are directly or indirectly affected by mental health issues. So it's very high, the percentage. And 60% of entrepreneurs experience moderate symptoms of burnout, which is what I was talking a little bit before. 91.5 entrepreneurs know other entrepreneurs who face mental health challenges. This is significantly higher. And then 83% of founders feel their family relationships have been affected by their entrepreneurial journey. What does that mean? That, you have the financial stress on your shoulders. Your family is betting on you to be, successful, but sometimes you have these challenges and you don't know how to talk to your family about it because either they're angel investors or, everybody's counting on your success. So you have all this stress on your shoulders. And then 18.5% of entrepreneurs are aware of mental health resources. So 18.5, you can see the difference between the high level of mental health issues and stress issues and family issues with the low percent of how aware entrepreneurs are about the importance of, taking care of your mental health and what resources are there for you to use. So this percentage we want to work more on to increase. And that's why we're talking today about this topic, because I believe it's really important. So why should entrepreneurs care, right? Burnout is not a badge of honor. It doesn't mean that when you're super busy and very stressed, that doesn't mean that it's good. It's actually a sign that you're not doing well, right? That there is this stigma in the market that you're the superhero, you're the entrepreneur, you have to do excellent with your company, and you cannot talk about how tired you are or how stressed you are, because then people will look at you as a weak person, or why are you being vulnerable with your feelings? Like, this is not good. You have to be strong. You're a founder. You have to really succeed. So some entrepreneurs really think that, really pushing stress, no time to dedicate to family, to their own, having time for themselves is bad. And this is not me talking about it. This is me having many conversations with entrepreneurs about how they're feeling. And it's hard for them to ask for help, as much as they're super tired and stressed and can't even sleep at night because they feel the burden. It's hard for them to raise their hand and ask for help. And Santiago will talk a little bit more about this, his own personal experience. So the thing I want you to all remember is that when you're having signs of burnout, this is where it is becoming an issue for you to have long-term success in your company, because there is a correlation between you not being well, your stress level starts to affect your judgment and decisions in your company. And so the success of your business will be affected by the way you're handling your stress in your daily lives. So this is very, very important to understand. So continuing, why should entrepreneurs care? So sustainable performance, what you need energy to be able to continue focusing on your business. Founders, and I'm the daughter of 2 entrepreneurs, so I understand how founders are passionate about what they're building. They're dedicating their lives to, their company. It's their heart is in it, and I understand and I respect that, to the point that, that maintaining that level of energy and focus and resilience consistently, is difficult, but it's essential to make the right decisions for the business, right? Having a clear mind is important for you to make those important decisions of who you're going to hire in your business, who's your C-level going to be, what are the clients you're going to focus on getting, like what is your business strategy, what are your targets for the revenues you want to achieve this year, how you're going to get there, how you're going to market and brand your business. So, and most importantly, how you're going to lead effectively the team so that you can all together scale your company. So if the leader, which is the founders or the co-founders of the company, their physical and mental health is starting to deteriorate, well, guess what? That will start, showing up also in your decision-making at the company, and also your employees will start noticing. Everyone notices. As much as we think that they don't notice, they do notice the difference and the changes that you're going through. So it's very important for founders to focus on their sustainable performance. That's what we call it, like maintaining and knowing when to step back, take a vacation, or find a coach that you can talk to about how to balance work and life. And there's so many tools out there. I'll talk about some of the ones that I've used in the past so that you can maybe experiment with some of them. So improve creativity, right? Creativity comes when you have mental space to be creative. You're able to, since your stress level is on check and it's controlled, you're able to, think about your vision for the company and the different ideas that pop into your head that you might explore to incorporate into your company. So this creativity, and I know because founders have high levels of creativity, that's where you all, bring all your ideas to life. This mental space needs to have space so you can continue to be creative. So if your cortisol and your stress is really, really high, well, guess what? Some of these ideas that are popping into your head are not getting the right attention. So there is a lot of mental saturation. So you're able to sometimes not even perceive that these ideas could be excellent for your company. So, or, you have high level of stress because you're not getting that client that you need, or you lost a very important client and suddenly your revenues went down, you have to pivot, right, in a fast manner so that you can be able to rescue the business. So being able to make those quick decisions and have that agility to adapt, well, guess what? It's important for you to have that mental, well-being and also physical, so that you don't start feeling sick, which your body can then, your immune system can crash. And then when you're sick, well, guess what? It will affect your company, because then no one is able to guide those or implement those changes in an agile and fast-paced format. So again, important to focus on your wellness so that you have that mental space for creativity. And then stronger leadership and emotional intelligence. IQ is very important, but also EQ, right? Your emotional intelligence is what you use in your day-to-day to lead your teams, to make these important decisions in your business, and also be able to be aware of your surroundings, about things that are happening inside your company, about what your clients are saying, really being aware and present and absorbing the feedback from your clients so that you're able to incorporate that feedback and be agile to make the right changes in a fast-paced manner. And then strong leadership. I talk a lot about conscious leadership, right? When you're in the present moment and you understand your superpowers and why you're building this company, you're passionate about it, and you put your heart in it, you lead from your heart. Your employees feel that you're leading from the heart, not only from the head, right? And when the times get difficult, that is when your emotional intelligence, is the most important tool, so that you can adapt and explain in a very grounded manner with your clients and employees, explaining what is happening and making sure that everyone feels calm, and or share the responsibility, because again, the founder has the weight and the shoulders of the company, but it's also a shared responsibility with the team, that you're all rowing together in the same boat, towards the same direction, right? You're the visionary, and then everybody is following your vision and your decisions. So being a strong leader, that doesn't mean, being tough or making tough decisions and we're gonna be all like doing this and we have to do it, no, or leading through fear. It's more about sharing the conversation and the responsibility with everyone, but making sure they feel that everything will be okay, and that, the company will need to go through different transitions with depending on the adaptability you need to face in the current moment in the market, or if you as start having creative ideas and want to pivot, well, explaining in a very clear manner what is that pivot and why you're doing it. So again, communication, going back to really communicating to the team what it's happening, what's your vision, and what are the changes. And this you can only do if you're really in a living in the present moment, first of all, but also your stress is controlled so that you don't pass this stress to everybody else. Any questions? We have more time after for the Q&A. I'll continue. So what does all of this mean? So maintaining a good mental health also comes from being true and authentic to who we are, right? Because we are human beings and we have different forms and mechanisms to protect ourselves from the environment, from society. So, for example, we all have insecurities, and these insecurities, when they get triggered, we usually use different things to protect ourselves, and we can show up, in a not genuine way to the world or to our teams because we are protecting ourselves. So What does that mean? You're not being able to feel comfortable by being authentic and vulnerable and true, honest to yourself about how you're feeling. So for example, if you're having a bad day and you have a big problem in the company, you don't know how to solve this problem, you would be very pleasantly surprised to see how many people will want to help or raise their hand, collaborate with you to find a solution to the problem. So again, going back to, you're not alone and you don't have to have this mental burden by yourself. There is so many people out there, that are willing to even, have those difficult conversations or just listen to you or give you some ideas. I don't really think, I know people like to give advice, but it's more talking about through their experience, right? And that is very powerful when you share your experience so you can have that empathy and connect with others, just listening to their own experience and how they tackle those problems so that you can take whatever it works for you to incorporate into your either the problem you're facing or how, just bring all this information into your headspace to make a conscious decision. So why is it important to be authentic? We as human beings tend to use different masks. It's like different characters on how we show up to society, how we show up to our families, how we show up to our clients, to our coworkers, to our friends. And guess what? This can be very tiring. It can be very draining because you're starting to use all these different masks for different situations instead of just being yourself. And it can be scary to come out as 100% authentic. Okay, this is Claudia. And guess what? Maybe Claudia is not going to be liked by some people, and because they have different expectations of me. Or my family is not really happy because Claudia is not doing what they expect me to do. So what choices do I have? I have the choice of me adapting to what people need and what people want from me, or being true to myself and just showing up as who I am authentically. And if this doesn't work for some people, well, you know what? That is not your problem, it's theirs. So it's how you manage these expectations with people that is where we have to focus on, right? And this might take some time because sometimes we have all these masks and different characters to protect ourselves, to protect the inner child that maybe was hurt when they were little. So it's a process of, taking off all this mask that protected our insecurities and slowly showing up as your authentic self. And if you don't know how to do that, there's different types of coaches and also, different professionals that can help you get there. So common barriers for authenticity, emotional suppression of insecurities and stress leading to anxiety and burnout. I spoke a little bit about this, right? Having all these insecurities can be very overwhelming and it causes stress, especially for me, at least I feel it in the stomach, in the solar plexus, right? The stress and anxiety that prevents me of really feeling good about myself, and sometimes even it starts affecting sleep. So that is something to pay attention to, right? Then vulnerability also as a sign of weakness. Well, I've spoken to many, many entrepreneurs about this. And most of them say that they feel that by them showing that they are, vulnerable or talking about the needs that they have, the challenge that they have, they are afraid that people will perceive them as weak, especially investors. So they don't want to have those conversations with their board of directors or with their investors. And I understand that. I'm not saying go and talk to your investors and to your board about the problems you're having. No, it's about knowing which is your support group where you can actually go and be vulnerable. Is it a group of mentors? Is it a good friend that you might have that will listen to you, or any professional that you have that can support you? But, slowly opening up and being vulnerable, that's a sign of strength. Because you're able to verbalize and communicate and share how you're feeling internally, how you're feeling inside. And how you feel inside is actually the reality of where you are at that present moment. You're not making these things up, right? So it's very important to honor the signs and just raise your hand and be vulnerable whenever you need help. Find help. I always tell, and I speak about this, and I don't get tired about speaking about it. Ask for support when you're feeling low and you need to talk to someone to help solve these challenges that you're having. And then the third thing is negative self-talk and self-doubt. You know, it always gets in the way. That what I talk about is that inner critic that is constantly telling you in your head, you're not good enough. Those decisions that you're making are not the right decisions. Why are you wasting time making these decisions? Or, oh my God, what are these people thinking about me? What are they going to think about me, that I'm a failure? I'm not, you know, succeeding with my company. I let everybody down. Or, you know, how am I going to get these clients? Like all this inner critic that's constantly negative, negative, negative. It's like so draining because it's in your head, but it starts actually creating so much self-doubt that it lowers your sense of, you know, self. And it's also, it almost puts you in doubt about your purpose and your mission and what you're doing with your business. So that is not a good place to be, because you start really asking all these negative questions and almost like giving up on what you're doing versus, you know, changing and saying, I'm going to have a positive mindset. This inner critic, I'm going to have it controlled every time it pops in during the day, because sometimes it's good to write down and notice how many times your inner critic pops during the day telling you negative things in your head. So if you have a journal, try and write down so you can start seeing patterns of how you're constantly being hard on yourself and your inner critic is telling you things that are negative. So you start changing your mindset to positive things like, I don't have money right now. Well, let me write down how many times I think about it during the day, and then start changing the mindset to, I am going to attract abundance. I am going to be able to get this client because I know I have the right product and service for them. So start changing that mindset and repetition. Through repetition, you're going to start being in practice. It's almost like, you know, your brain is a muscle. It's going to start rewiring itself. And the program that you have in your brain that you're not good enough, that, you know, what am I doing here? And all this negative noise is going to start changing to positive. So this positive affirmations, and you can write them down in your journal also, with these positive affirmations, and tell yourself all the time, I am going to be authentic. I'm going to show up as who I am because I truly believe in myself and my potential. And all this negative noise in my head, I'm going to have it on check. I'm not saying that they're not going to pop into your head, you know, from day to day. That's okay. It's impossible that noise doesn't come back. It's like meditating and you have thoughts coming into your head. It's really hard to meditate and have your brain and mind completely blank. But as long as you're aware of those thoughts coming in and letting them pass, you're going to be also doing the same thing with your inner critic, understanding what are those negative thoughts and patterns. I'm going to write them down, and every time they come up, I'm going to tell myself, I don't want to feel negative. I'm going to transmute this to a positive mindset. And slowly every day, by doing these exercises, you're going to start feeling more and more strong and how do you say, you're going to have more self-confidence. So a little bit about my story and journey with mental health, because I've been talking a lot about this in the last 30 minutes, but you know, what do I know about this? So my own journey, I grew up in El Salvador, where, you know, I was born with a civil war that lasted 10 years. So I have high levels of PTSD and trauma that prevented me from having sleep. I had insomnia. I don't know, my first probably 25 years of my life or 30. I had a lot of nightmares and I wasn't sure where they were coming from. So all of this was causing a lot of stress in my body because I wasn't having enough sleep and I wasn't understanding how trauma and PTSD was causing, my body not be able to have a profound sleep at night and regenerate itself. So as an adult, I started understanding that how I can heal myself, and be able to achieve quality sleep. And then because I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I also understood my mom and my dad were so passionate about their work and their companies, I guess what happens when you have two parents that are entrepreneurs? Well, they're always working, right? And so I didn't understand why they were always at work and why they weren't at home. And so now that, look, I'm on the other side supporting entrepreneurs, I completely understand and I have empathy for all founders because it's a very challenging and intense ride that you all are going through and journey, but I admire your resilience and your passion to follow your dreams. And so for me, understanding from my, coming from a family of entrepreneurs, I was able to also heal and some of the past, I would say, beliefs that I had that being an entrepreneur means you're not a good parent, for example. So now I understand that that's a false statement and belief that I had. The other thing that I left El Salvador and I made a conscious decision to leave because I felt that I wanted new opportunities. And I was able to move to New York to have a very good job in banking. But then I had to change my life and go to Brazil, right? Life happens and I had to adapt. Well, when I moved to Brazil, that was a very challenging moment in my life. I really didn't know how hard it was to adapt to a new culture. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't have a work permit, so I couldn't work. So basically, I'm faced with all these things after having a career in New York and being in a country where I didn't know how to navigate and I didn't know how to, reinvent myself. So basically, I was looking at myself in the mirror with a white canvas of opportunities. But instead of, seeing it as an opportunity, I went into depression. And I wasn't, happy where I was. I was like beating myself really hard on making the decision to move there and not understanding what I was doing there. But after so much, inner critic and just beating myself in my head, one day I said, it's up to me to make the change. I can't be expecting everyone else to make the change for me and to make me be happy. So I have to be in charge of my happiness and my joy. So I made it a decision that I was going to completely change my attitude towards life. And I went out and started meeting people and networking. I started learning Portuguese and just doing activities in the community and finding a nonprofit where I could volunteer. So I completely changed my mindset and shifted my look on life and was able to get out of the depression that I was in because I was authentic and vulnerable and I spoke that I wasn't happy and I started sharing this with people that I started meeting, including my husband, which I told him I need to do changes in my life so that I can almost like rescue myself from this dark place where I was. And guess what? It took a lot of work, but it did pay off. I ended up, getting a job at a nonprofit called Ashoka, which I was very passionate about the work that I was doing, helping social impact entrepreneurs all over Brazil. And that gave me the energy to really go out into the world and give my best to everyone. I was very passionate about the job. I met incredible people and I transformed that negativity and that gloomy sense of not liking where I was to a positive outlook to life and really embracing the opportunity that I had in experiencing a new culture, a new country, getting a new job completely in a nonprofit internationally, and just making a career out of that. And fast forward, I was there for 6 years in Brazil, and then life, happens again, and you have these difficult decisions. And I moved to Miami with my husband. And what happened? I had to again reinvent myself. And that process of reinvention, since I had already done it in Brazil, I had the tools to really make those shifts a bit faster. But what happens when you have a plan and the plan doesn't go like you want it to? Well, that is the tricky part. And I had a plan of, taking a sabbatical, really focusing on myself, and then finding a job here in Miami. But that was not the plan that I guess was that happened. But what happened was my parents asked me for help with one of the businesses that they had. And I dedicated 2 years doing that financial turnaround of that company. And it was the hardest job that I've had in my life. I worked with both of my parents, but it was at the same time the most rewarding, and the learning curve that I had there was really, really steep. It was, I say always, I had already an MBA, but this was an MBA on steroids, how to do a financial turnaround of a company that is in distress. But you know what, when you tackle things with a positive mindset, and again, what I had spoken before, thinking about everything's going to be fine and not drowning in a glass of water, and seeing, that glass half full instead of half empty, that gave me the strength to continue. And fast forward after those 2 years, I ended where I am now at Endeavor, where I've been for 6 years, supporting entrepreneurs, which is what I'm passionate about. And here I am talking to all of you about, wellness and mental health, because it's something that has helped me in all throughout my transitions in my life and all the changes that I've faced. But I know, because both of my parents have also gone through those stress levels of being founders, I empathize with all of you. I know how hard it is. And I'm sharing with you a little bit of, the knowledge and experience that I have, because I'm inviting all of you to, be curious, experiment with some of these tools that I'm going to talk a little bit in a little bit, and also talk about it with the people that you care about and that love you, about how you're feeling, and asking for help, and not being afraid of being vulnerable and authentic, because that is actually a sign of strength. I can guarantee you that. And if people don't see it as a sign of strength, well, maybe those people are not the right people you should be talking to. So what I've learned is that, life, we're here to experiment. There is a evolution curve. I do not think that life is linear. Does anyone think life is linear? I don't think so. Do you think that there's a line that, lifetime and then evolution straight up? Do you think that's how life goes here? Or is it, evolution, you're evolving as you go in life, but you have those ups and downs throughout your life, those cycles? Well, this is more aligned to the truth. We have ups and downs throughout our lives, but it's how we come out of those deep, of those cycles when we're in the lows, that you're able to go out and find the new high. And that, as you incorporate these different jumps, when you're in a bad place, or you're feeling tired, depressed, or lonely, etc., the more quick you get out of those deeps in the cycle, the lows, you start having practice. And if you see the curve, you get out of those lows pretty fast. So they start becoming really short. Instead of taking months or years, sometimes that people can stay years in those lows, you start getting out of them faster. And then with practice, you're able to find your own superpowers and strengths on how you are able to get out of those lows in a quick manner. And I think this is really an invitation for you to choose what type of life you want to live, right? And always thinking of a constant evolution to improve yourself as a human being. So let's do a temperature check. And I want everyone to raise their hand when I ask the following question. Let me just see here. Okay. I feel overwhelmed with the responsibilities of running my business. Raise your hand who feels this way. I struggle to find time for myself outside of work. I sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough even when I'm working my hardest. Yeah, that's common. Hold on. Sorry. I have moments when I feel isolated or alone in my journey. I find it difficult to maintain healthy habits while running my company. I experience anxiety or stress about my company's future. Okay. I feel like I don't have enough support in my personal life or business. I have trouble sleeping because I'm thinking about work all the time. Geraldo and Juan, you're right. Okay. Yeah, it's most of you. See, it's difficult. I sometimes feel like I'm on the edge of burnout. I struggle with balancing my personal relationships and my business. I have not taken a vacation in a long time. I don't have enough time with my family. Okay, so I see most of you raising your hand in most of these questions, or more than question statements. So this is a clear indication that there is something off balance with, all of us, and the stress is real. The unbalance between taking care of our body, our mental health, and work is also real. So this is causing all this anxiety, and it can lead to a burnout. So what I'm going to talk about next are some of the tools that you can incorporate in your lives so that all of these issues can start, diminishing, or at least being more controlled, because it's not going to be perfect. We're always going to have some challenges. But if you have 12 of these or most of these, then it's a red flag. And we have to, maybe take a step back to think, okay, there's something that is not right here. And it's time for me to take control of my life and reshift my priorities so that I can focus on my health, physical, on my mental health, so that I can show up as a better leader to my employees, to my clients, and I can really have that mental space so that I can bring more creativity into my brain and be able to, make conscious decisions, maybe most of them difficult decisions, but have that mental space clear to make those decisions. So, we talk about wellness. You hear about wellness all the time in the market, and people, talking about well-being, and it's becoming a trend. And sometimes you see it on Instagram and all these festivals and retreats, etc. And so you feel like, oh my God, this is a lot. This is too much to say. I don't understand what this means. So let me just explain in a simple manner. Wellness is a multi-dimensional. You can see it from different angles. What does this mean, wellness, or well-being? So first you have your emotional well-being. How am I with my emotions? Am I feeling a lot of fears, sadness, or maybe joy and happiness? Like, where am I right now? Doing that constant and daily check-in with yourself. Where are my financials? Am I feeling the stress of finance, right? In my family, in the business? Like, am I going to be able to make payroll this month with my employees? Like, this stress of, managing money. Or social, do I have time for my friends, or I don't have time for my friends because the weekend arrives and I'm extremely tired. I don't want to see anyone. I just want to sleep and be at home with my family. I don't see my kids that often, so I want to be with my children. So, how do you manage social? Are you having date night with your partner? Are you going out to a restaurant or to the movies or doing fun things so that you can disconnect from work? Spiritual, some of you practice a religion, or you just practice spirituality, whatever it is for you. Like, how are you connecting with your spirituality? Do you have any in your life? Do you have any faith that, brings you that hope, like any practice? Or occupations, do you have anything that is fun? Do you practice a sport? Do you like pottery? Do you like, doing any art, like anything that, again, takes your mind off work, but it's your time to recharge batteries, anything that is fun for you. I, for example, do gardening. I love gardening my garden. I love having no shoes and feeling earth and connecting with earth and grounding, during the weekends, and working with my hands. That gives me this joy. So it's not an occupation, but it's something that I found that helps me connect with earth and also rebalances my energy. And then physical, do you practice any sport, or you go to the gym, or you do yoga, or anything that gets your body moving? Because again, if you have stagnated energy and you're not moving your body, and you're too many hours sitting in front of the computer working, your eyes start, getting irritated and dry, or your back, you start having back problems, or your hands, like, what are you doing to move? Do you take breaks during the day to stretch your body? And then intellectual, what are you doing for your intellect? Are you reading books that you want to learn new things? You want to have knowledge about certain topics? Are you dedicating some time to reading or taking classes? There's so many online classes, that can help you. Even on this topic of wellness, there's so much out there. There's platforms like Mind Valley and Gaia, and or even in courses that you can take online, Coursera. Again, there's different tools. And then the other thing, environmental. How are you connecting with the earth? Are you really in tune with nature? Do you go to parks? Do you walk in nature? Do you like hiking? Do you stop and contemplate the beauty of flowers and trees that give us oxygen? I practice that a lot. Sometimes I feel so charged energetically, and I'm super stressed and tired. I go to a park and I hug a tree, and let me tell you, it works. I drain that energy and I hug the tree, and it gives me that connection with nature. So if you haven't tried it, try it once. It's beautiful. So anyways, just being out in nature, I feel that nature is the pill of health, and I invite you to also connect with it. So as you see, there's many tools that you can go to find ways to get your mental space out of just work. And then the hidden levels of stress, what high cortisol does to your body. I already spoke a little bit about this, but there's science behind this. There is already so many studies that show that high levels of cortisol cause inflammation. It weakens your immune system, which means that you're going to constantly be sick and catch any cold or any disease that your kids bring home from school, or that your coworkers have. And so you catch all these viruses. And the other thing, it affects your nervous system. And if your nervous system is not balanced, well, you start having what we call autoimmune diseases. So autoimmune diseases like lupus, or you become celiac, or problems with the thyroid. Anyways, there's multiple autoimmune diseases now that people are facing because of the level of stress. And I'm not just talking about stress from work. I'm also talking about emotional stress, because we are humans and we carry so much emotional stress that comes from trauma when we were little, or things that have happened in our lives. So we are constantly putting more and more in the back of our shoulders. So that physical and emotional stress affects insomnia. It causes insomnia, which means you're not sleeping well. Unhealthy habits, you get eating habits, sorry. Either you eat a lot, and if you eat a lot of sugar, for example, that causes inflammation in your body, and also will start causing even to the point of autoimmune diseases and diabetes, just having all this sugar because it's addictive, or not eating enough because you don't have time to eat. You're so worried and busy with work, you stop eating and not taking care of your nutrition and the intake in your body. So I just quickly want to say that I have an autoimmune disease because it was triggered by all my stress, emotional and trauma, etc. I was able to cure myself just changing my nutrition. I'm now taking care of what I eat, and I cut all sugar, and I went alcohol and a lot of other things, and it's working for me. So again, yes, difficult decisions, and it's a process, but I can guarantee that nutrition is very important. Some people have a lot of migraines and headaches constantly because of the stress. So how do we lower, again, cortisol to lower these migraines and headaches? Anxiety and depression, right? Constant anxiety, usually we feel it here in the chest or our solar plexus. And depression, just feeling sad constantly, and right? And that life is unfair with us, and you just go into a dark place because you don't know how to find joy. So this, again, brings that emotional stress or anger or fear. So all of these different emotions cause cortisol in our body. And then impact of ignoring stress, burnout or long-term illness, emotional outbursts, unhealthy relationships. So all of this, together will lead to burnout. I've burnt out 3 times in my life. And let me tell you, the first time I had a migraine for 2 weeks, and I didn't understand why I had this horrible migraine for 2 weeks. And I had mental block, fog in my head. I couldn't work, I couldn't read emails, and it started really affecting my work. And I was this was in 2021, right after COVID. And then how did I tackle this burnout? So I started learning about meditation to really start lowering my cortisol and practicing new things. And the other thing is role of the inner critic, which I already spoke about, those childhood conditioning to push through stress. Sometimes it's not our fault why, and we're not even aware why we're addicted to work, why we don't tackle stress, because we probably learned as children that that is normal, that you have to be the superhero, that you cannot ask for help, that you cannot be vulnerable or authentic. And like I mentioned before, because that is not something that you learn as a child. You actually learn the opposite, to be strong, always, problem solving and never saying I need help. So what are those conditionings? I invite you to be aware and write again in your journal. Why is it that I'm so hard on myself? Why is it that I'm a workaholic? Where is this coming from? And just asking those questions, and you will be surprised, some of the answers are going to start coming out, because all the information you already have inside. And if you're not sure, ask your parents if they're still with you, or ask friends, how do I show up? And start having a little bit of, an inner circle where you can trust to ask these questions, so that they can help you have more self-awareness about who you are. And then again, overlooking your well-being and keep going despite long-term damage. Remember, stress can cause long-term damage. There's already a lot of science and correlation about trauma, stress, emotional, too much emotional stress causing diseases, right? So we want to avoid this and getting into not being healthy, because that will not only affect you as, your work, but it will help you in your life in the long term. So these are some tools that I've used in my life to help lower stress, meditation, and I don't practice them all like constantly. I go through phases. Sometimes I do a lot of meditation if I feel I need it. I really, really love journaling. So it's something that it has helped me write down my feelings, write how every day, like a little, even like if it's just a phrase to close the day. And then I love connecting with nature. Again, it's something that is free for everyone. It's all around us here. Whoever is in Miami, there's so many parks you can go to, or the beach, just to sit down and watch the ocean and feel the breeze. There's sound healing. If you haven't done sound healing, it helps with your vibration, tuning your vibration. You just, lay down, and then the instructor plays all these beautiful instruments, and it helps your body regulate. Breath work is really powerful. Breathing. Even if again, breathing is free. If you stop for 5 minutes, close your eyes, you're at work, you take a break and you just breathe for 5 minutes, you will see immediately how you regulate your body. And it helps you come back to the present moment and ground yourself. So maybe you're starting to feel the anxiety and the palpitations on your chest. You stop and you breathe for 5 minutes, and you will see how it starts lowering again, and your heart rate starts going back to normal. And you can also there's many teachers that do breath work for a period of an hour, and it's so powerful breath work. So again, find maybe a local teacher that can guide you through breath work. And then having someone you can trust to talk to. Again, I cannot emphasize how important this is. You're not alone in the journey of being an entrepreneur. This is common to all entrepreneurs. So talk between you. You have a peer network where you can share how you're feeling with other founders. And guess what? You already saw, most of you raised your hand. You are feeling the same way. You have the same stress in your business, different challenges, but you're feeling this unbalance. So talk to your other founders, or find a mentor that you trust, that you can talk to more. Exercising, again, I'm not going to be repetitive, or going on a retreat. Sometimes this also can help. Finding, a retreat, maybe 2 days on just learning how to breathe, or having, retreat where you incorporate meditation and some other things. And then bond with loved ones, have time to bond with your family, with your children, but be really present. I hear sometimes founders say, I have so many things in my head, and I come home and my kids want to be with me, but I'm not able to disconnect from work. So I feel guilty that I'm not being able to be present with my children, because I'm there with them, but my head is thinking about work. So how do we put boundaries for our own selves and stop that, mental machine from just thinking about work, and say, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to be fully present with my spouse, or fully present with my kids, and maybe I will continue once they go to bed, or I will wake up earlier to continue, like finding ways of doing that. And then last but not least, spiritual growth. Whatever spirituality means for you, I invite you to incorporate it into your life. It really helps you also, have that faith, or something to look forward to beyond just our human nature. So what's in your toolbox today? Write a list of what do you have, do an exercise at home tonight. What is in your toolbox today? And what do you want to start experimenting with? Like different modalities that you can bring into your toolbox. Okay. And just experiment with them. And last but not least, I call this the recalibration flow. Are you aware of how you're feeling about your life today? Ask yourself that. Do you want to make changes in your life? Are you willing to do the work because again, change doesn't come without doing the work. You have to put that extra effort. Are you going to take a pause and create space to go inward, look inside of you? What is the underlying cause of your struggles? Like really understanding where the stress is coming from. Is it just that I'm not closing that client that I need, that I really want? Or is it more than just that? Is it really that the whole, you're doubting about the whole business, you're doubting about the investor that is ready to give you a check, but you're not sure about that investor? Who do I talk to about, what should I do? So many questions in your head. So what are those struggles in your head? Do I have the right team in place? Do I have the right support? And then acknowledge, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you are the only one in the driver's seat of your life. No one else. You are the only one in the driver's seat of your life. So change is not going to happen miraculously because other people start doing things. It's going to start happening because you're making the changes in your own life, internally, externally, at work, with your family. And start slowly, be gentle with yourself, experiment a little bit, and you'll see that change will start having a multiplier effect. We talk about the multiplier effect at Endeavor, but once you start changing inside of you, that will start multiplying outside of you. Your team will start feeling it, your family will feel it, your friends will feel it, and they're gonna start asking, what are you doing? I see that you're different. I want to drink the Kool-Aid you're drinking, because they're going to start feeling and seeing changes in you, positive changes, hope. And then what activities help your brain pause and rest? Like, what do I need to stop my brain? Take a break. Okay, what am I going to do in that break? Okay, I'm going to go breathe for 5 minutes. I'm going to call my mom or someone that I love to tell them I love them and I miss them. And that will give me, positive energy back, so that I feel good the rest of the day. Or you do something good for someone else, you pay it forward to someone else. So, creating those positive habits can help, transform your life. And then what activities help you recharge? Maybe after work, you do something that recharges, exercise, or you just stop for 10 minutes on the way home because there's a park there and you sit under a tree and you breathe before you get home and you transmute that energy from work. And now you're ready to come into your house to see your family with a different energy, right? So that you release, if you have any anger or any sadness or fear, you breathe it out and then you recalibrate. So just to end, inviting you to start incorporating, positive habits, things that work for you, what's in your toolbox. Start with some of these tools. And just remember, founders, entrepreneurs, you're wired. It's in your DNA. You are problem solvers, you're visionaries, you're creative, you have your brains always thinking out of the box. So how do I maintain balance in my life so I don't burn out? Because you're resilient human beings. Yeah, high levels of resiliency. You don't give up easily. You push through when there's a lot of challenges. So in that process of, being resilient and pushing through and making sure your business succeeds, how are you going to take care of yourself so that you can also individually as human beings succeed? So I leave you with a couple of, TED Talks that are really good. Brené Brown on vulnerability, how to make stress your friend. And there's no shame in taking care of your mental health by Sangu. So again, there's many tools, there's several books. If you want more, I can give you more and share after through the team, an email with maybe books and other podcasts. I use Will Fly, which is a breathwork teacher here in Miami. She's excellent. There's Modern Om that has different also classes. Anyways, find anything that helps you. And I just invite you to start. So I end here, but I would love to now hear everyone. if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, anything. Anyone want to talk?
Well, Claudia, thank you for everything. It was really open eyes again. For me, it's very interesting to think about it again because I have a situation in my last start 3 years ago. I got cancer because of that emotional, intense situation. So it's very true what you said, and we have to take care of ourselves before anything else. And thank you for bringing this again to my life. Thank you, Claudia.
Of course. Again, it's starting slowly, incorporating things. I'm here if you want to talk about it more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. That was amazing. And yeah, no, a lot of these feelings, we all share, like you said, and sometimes I feel like you're the only one. So that was very vulnerable of you, and I really appreciate you being so open with us. Thank you.
Of course. I think, like I said before, sharing my own experience, and again, we all have some story about burning out, health issues, stress, etc. So talking about it helps, and knowing that you're not alone, and just, learning from others. Let's go to Adriana.
Hi, Claudia. Thank you very much for sharing all of this. And I just want to share that in my last company, something that helped us to the co-founders, because at the beginning, all the co-founders trying to do everything. But after a while, you need to delegate. And I think that the thing that works for us to have less debates and conflicts was to write the process in the company, just to teach to our coworkers how they take decisions. And I think that you need to regulate the main important things, and that helps.
Yes,
in the process of
very
having less stress, less stress.
Yeah, and that's something that's very important, that how to delegate to your team, and trust that they're going to be able to execute on it. Because sometimes we tend to micromanage, and that means that we are insecure that they can actually deliver what you want. So just trusting, that's why you hired them, and maybe it's not going to be perfect, but then you become a coach more than a micromanager. You become a coach, and you guide them and help them.
Yes, and I think that with your co-founders, at least one time per year, you need to review your business plan, your mission, your vision, your values, because in my personal experience, the best character of the co-founders is when you have money and you don't have money, and you struggle with the money. And it's something that is very hard, because when you have the money, the way that you were thinking that, or the agreements that you did, is like everybody forget that. And then you start fighting for things. And in my personal experience, you need to write this kind of things, that everybody don't forget what's the reason of the business, what's the reason of your entrepreneurship, and things like that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. Juan, I know Luis wants to share, but I don't know, Juan, you had your hand up for a while. Do you want to share anything? No? Yes? No?
Yes,
okay. So
I'm sorry, did you call my name? No.
Yes, Luis, go for it.
Okay. I like to share something because most of the problems of stress originate in the brain. And in my case, for example, a few months ago, I didn't know how the brain worked. I didn't know anything about the brain. I know a lot of things in life, but not about the brain. So I got connected with neuroscientists, podcasts, and I have learned a lot about how the brain works. And I have learned, the brain is the most complex organ in the whole universe. It has more neurons than all the galaxies of the universe. So the complexities of the brain were mostly unknown 5 to 10 years ago. but the neuroscience is the science of the 21st century. So we're lucky that we are able to see how the brain works and how it relates to all the stress that we have in our life. And if we know how the brain works, then we will understand a lot of the things that are causing stress on a daily life. And the other good thing about it is that the brain can be trained. You
Yes.
know, there are techniques to train the brain to behave the way it should, and then avoid all the problems that you mentioned in your conversation. And the other thing is the interrelation of the brain with all the organs of the body. So if you don't know anything of that, you're really limited about controlling your stress. I have found that this knowledge is very, very useful. And I would recommend it that you guys get connected with neuroscience. And I am sure that you will find a lot of benefits very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Luis. And I completely agree. Obviously, you know, the brain is a muscle and we have programs in our brain. It's like a computer, right? We learn a lot of things when we were little. And sometimes we don't understand how we act as adults because it's something that we have in the unconscious most of the time. And I saw, Leslie, you wrote about Gabor Mate. Gabor Mate was here in Miami last week. I went to see him. He's the king of trauma. And he explains how trauma is directly correlated to, you know, health in your physical health. And there's a lot of tests and science behind, you know, Harvard and many universities have done studies on trauma, how it affects the body and our mental health. So yes, understanding the brain. Joe Dispenza also, you know, talks a lot about neuroscience and your brain. And like them, there are other great teachers out there. There's so many books. Again, I can go back and send some of these to you so you can share. The Power of the Mind, Eckhart Tolle on The Power of Now, and just practicing mindfulness and being present. So there are many teachers. There is so much information out there on the brain and how our nervous system is wired. And if we have high levels of cortisol, it affects our nervous system and it starts causing, again, inflammation. And that means also inflammation in the brain, which causes that mental fog I spoke about. So yes, Luis, all of that is very true. Leslie, do you want to add anything?
Well, actually, I have a question. Yeah, I'm jealous that you got to see Gabor. Unfortunately, that was the day of my dental surgery and I was in bed rest, but I was this close of buying tickets and going with my eyes in my, I would love to hear from you. How was it? Anyways, my question is, I've been all of this neuroscience and stuff like that. That's one of my second passions in my life, is to study how the brain works. And I started during the pandemic, like I guess a lot of people started, you know, digging into these kind of things as a way to understand what was going on in our lives, and it has been very helpful. However, I have a question. Everything that you said to us is fantastic, and I try to practice breath work and exercise and stuff like that. But sometimes the life of an entrepreneur is so unpredictable. You says, okay, I'm gonna run every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden you get a meeting, you get a job, you get a project. That make me fall off the wagon in that sense. And of course, I put my well-being last because I need to tend to my clients and my projects. And how do you guys handle that? How do you go back into the wagon of putting yourself first and your mental health first? I mean, I go to therapy every 15 days just for health, for mental hygiene, I call it. And I try to, you know, get into the good habits again. But it's difficult sometimes because of the unpredictable things that happen in the business. And you are the one who has to take care of it, right?
Yeah. Well, that is exactly what happens to all entrepreneurs, right? Every day is unpredictable and there's challenges that you didn't plan for. So what I would say from my own experience is having very clear priorities and trying to understand, okay, my energy and my focus has to go on these priorities. Obviously, there's other things. There's a big list of things, but what is at the top of the list that I need to focus on so that my business can go forward? And try and put all my intention in those. If maybe I get an emergency meeting or a client, well, obviously you have to be agile and adapt to that, but hopefully that's not every day, because if it's every day that you have to do it, then maybe it's a time to step back and understand why is it that every day I have an emergency? What is causing all these emergencies? Is it a issue that I'm having with my product? Is it that the product is, maybe sometimes the tech is failing constantly, or I have a very complex client that is very demanding and is draining my energy? So thinking, what type of client do I really want? The other day I was talking to an entrepreneur, and she actually came to the conclusion that she's only going to focus on a certain profile of client, even though she knows she needs the money. She said, what price am I going to put on my mental health if I'm going to get a client that's going to keep me up at night and is constantly going to be asking me, those clients end up being very expensive, right? So shifting, okay, what are the clients I'm going to really focus on so that I can start attracting more of these types of clients? And maybe at the beginning, because you're starting your business, you can't do that. But again, it's what are your priorities as a founder? Like, what are your main priorities? Is it to build a unicorn business, a billion-dollar business, or is it to make, create a sustainable company that is growing at a healthy pace, but that I am also taking care of myself and having a life? It's a choice, right? Sometimes founders know, I'm going to build a billion-dollar company and I'm all in, and maybe they're not going to be taking care of themselves. And you're going to hear from Santiago in 10 minutes about his own story and how he went down that route. But it's more about asking yourself, what are your priorities, and how are you going to design your week so that maybe 80% of the time I know what my priorities are, and I'm going to allocate 20% of my time for those emergencies, but not 80% emergencies and 20% priorities. So
it's not actually emergencies. It's just like the nature of my job. I have a photography studio and a printing studio. So sometimes it's just somebody needs to schedule a session at a time that I had planned, to do my therapy or to have my exercise or whatever. I'm just giving random examples.
And you feel bad saying no?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel not only bad, I feel
Guilty.
Obligated to say yes. Obligated to say yes, because the clients are the bloodline of my business. Okay. So, for example, I train Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:00 in the morning every week. And even that early, sometimes I have to cancel because I have a session at 8:00, so I won't be ready. Things like that happen.
So question, can you say yes and then reshift your class to another time at night? Can you be agile with your schedule?
Not with a trainer, because for example, yes.
It's finding, I think it would be, and I have been in your shoes, that sometimes I have a class that I've scheduled and suddenly I can't go. So it's more saying, Claudia, it's okay. Today I'm going to prioritize this, and I'm going to take the class tomorrow and not be hard on myself because I'm not going to go to the class. And just, find this by being agile and adapting, but making sure I don't, stop going to classes for a month and then, okay, that's a red flag.
Yes, that's something that happens. I'm looking at Adriana, she says to set a schedule for myself. And that reminds me of somebody's sister who was a very, very busy executive. And she realized that all of the secretaries in the petroleum company that she was working at in Venezuela, they work 9 to 5. At 5:00, they will close the desk, grab their purses and leave. And then, you know what she did? She quit her job and she got herself a job as a secretary in the same petroleum company. because she says this girls, they have the ideal life.
Yeah.
They come 9 to 5 and they do their job, and they don't care if the world is falling apart inside the company. At 5 o'clock, they're leaving.
But that's her priority in her life, have time after 5. So again, it's go back to asking yourself the question, what is your priority? What is your goal for your life? Like, what do you want your life to look like? And what's your experience? Because this is an experience that we're all having. So how do you balance to have this wonderful experience without having so much burden or stress and mental, stress? So I'm going to give you guys a quick break.
Thank you.
And I'm going to have Santiago come in and talk to you about his journey. So I'll give you 10 minutes and I'll see you at, do you mind if it's a 5-minute break? I told him to be here at 11, but we'll start like 11:03. I'll give you like 8-minute break.
Not a problem. Not a
Okay,
problem.
I'll see you in a little bit. Do we have Santiago here already?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing, Claudia?
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for the invite.
So let's ping Santiago so that you can all see him in a big screen, so you can all ping him. Okay. Perfect. So I'm really excited to have Santiago Aparicio with us today, because Santiago, just for you to know, I just spoke for an hour about the importance of mental health and well-being. And you and I have been talking about this for the last year, and about your own personal journey and how you discovered, the power of having this mind shift to understand that physical health is as much as important as mental health, to avoid burnout, especially as entrepreneurs, right? And just for everyone to know, like, I remember about 2 years ago, I invited Santiago to a wellness retreat that Endeavor had organized for entrepreneurs. And I thought like all founders were going to subscribe to it. And it was hard to get, a group of founders to commit to the wellness retreat. And Santiago told me, no, I saw the invitation, but I didn't think that was for me. I didn't need, wellness. I was perfectly fine in my life, and I didn't need it. So just to remember that maybe some of you don't think right now that wellness and mental health and having a well-being in your life is important. And that's why I invited Santiago to come share his story and his journey. And he's going to talk, for 40 minutes about his journey, and then we'll go into Q&A. But Santiago is a co-founder of On Top, which is a company that is in the Endeavor portfolio, and him and his co-founder, Julian, are both Endeavor entrepreneurs. So I'm going to let you talk about your journey as entrepreneur, and then, the whole journey about burnout and mental health that you have and where you're now. So with that, I'll leave you, Santiago, to take it from here.
Well, 100%. Thank you so much, Claudia, for the intro. And you're completely right. Actually, I think I was even more rude than that when you invited me I was like, yeah, that's no work. That's going to help us grow, something like that. I guess I was pretty much like, that's not going to help us growth. That was kind of the line. And so here we are. So yeah, irony always wins, as you may know. So first of all,
Circle.
for Celco, yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Santiago. I'm 35 years old. I've been living in the US now for the most part of 5 years. And yeah, I'm just gonna share with you my story. If you feel that you want me to go deeper, or if you want to stop me and go right into Q&A, I'm fine either way. So feel free to get as much value of my story as you want. I'm here not to do anything else other than help you navigate what's being an entrepreneur, and hopefully you can avoid most of the things that happen to me. So it all started with me studying economics. I went to Universidad de los Andes in Colombia and then graduated from London School of Economics. After that, I decided to pursue your typical management consultant career. So I worked for a while at Marsh & McLennan Companies in New York. Hated it. So I rapidly decided that I wanted to go into tech. I didn't know anything about tech, to be honest. Most of the people will tell you that they figure out that that was going to be a future or so. Honestly, for me, I just find it cool. I just figure like there's a lot of cool people that I know that space. I might as well do that. And so, out of complete luck, I literally flew down to Bogota and asked for a friend of mine at the time to some advice. And so that friend told me, hey, let's grab a beer. Let's talk about what I'm doing. At this point, I'm building websites, right? This is 2013, 2014. I'm building websites for a software studio. It's actually pretty cool. We have like sushi night and there's like some hammocks and puffs in the office. You're gonna love it. And I was like, it's sure, let's I just don't want to do more like spreadsheets and not have a life anymore. And obviously my mom was terrified because the money that I was making versus the money that I was going to do here was insanely bad. Obviously the other thing is that I mean I went through like I was fortunate enough that my parents paid for my education, so obviously they didn't like that. Like, what are you going to do? This is insane. You're going to sacrifice everything that you built up until now, knowledge-wise, to go and build websites. And anyhow, that was that. They were pissed, but they supported me in the end. So I came back, literally flew down to Bogota, started my life again, started building some websites. And then those websites became software. And that software became software for retailers. So we wanted to help retailers all over the world to set up their e-coms, right? Um, and so at that point, everything was cool. We were building the software. Uh, Basically, the guy that found the company called me and said to me, hey, Santi, we need to onboard retailers all over the world. This might be a big thing for us. We've already closed Grupo Casino, which is one of the biggest retailers in Latin America. Why don't we try with the biggest ones all over the world? So at that point, we went through it. The company managed to close Reliance in India, which is huge, Walmart in the US, and then my side of the business was Europe. So I was in charge of El Corte Inglés in Spain. Went there, everything was amazing. The company was doing actually good. I was an employee, literally like an account executive. I was working in BizDev at that moment. And so the next idea came and it was, listen, so this seems to be running right, but we need to convince the retailers that the future of e-com is going to be uh, kind of at that we didn't know at that point what was going to look like, but we kind of refer of it as the gig economy at that point. So we figured we need to bring them into the gig economy. Uber is doing it, and you know the cliche, like the biggest hotel in the world doesn't have any rooms, and the biggest taxi company in the world doesn't own any cars. And so we wanted to do that for groceries, right? And so I was like, sure, let's ask them. And the problem with that is that at this point that didn't like was not exciting. The founding like partners of the company were not that into it. And so they decided that the best thing that we could do was ask retailers to hire their own delivery force, and so that we can connect those with software and just run. And again, it was a hard sell. Retailers didn't want to hire anyone. They were like, people are coming into our physical stores already. Why do you want me to extend cost, like fixed costs in my organization? I'm not gonna do any delivery. Obviously, as you may know, retail and mostly retail has small margins, so they were just not willing to do so. And so I said, okay, it seems that this company just like hit a wall, right? What am I going to do? At this point, I was already very deep in the Spanish culture. So I figure I'm just gonna stay here for a while. I enjoy it. I'm young. Uh, Nothing to lose. So I stayed in Spain. I built my first company over there. I figured Latin America has a lot of curvy women. Why not build lingerie for curvy women, right? That was my first company. It was called Curve and Co. And so I joined forces with a co-founder, actually the sister of one of my best friends that she used to work in fashion and high luxury brands and all that stuff. We got together, put up a company. I decided that I want to pursue an MBA, so I went to IE University, Instituto de Empresa de Madrid, and over there, I raised something like $100,000, I remember. And my whole thing was like, I didn't know at this point anything about venture capital, but I figured that university was in Madrid, which I liked. And they were the ones in Spain doing kind of entrepreneurs, that vibe. And that was in some sense the only way that I've heard that you could raise money. And the only way to do that was winning that competition, the ones that were happening within the university. So funny enough, I won the competition. We raised $100,000. Um, Company failed massively. Obviously, we lost all the money. We managed to close a deal though with Bloomingdale's for $1 million. But what I didn't account was FX fluctuations. So obviously, dollar went up. We're producing in Medellin, Colombia. Everything went to shit. Uh, Pricing didn't make any sense. Literally negative unit economics right away. And I don't know how you feel about this, Claudia, but I see some hands reasons. So do you want us to stop? I'm fine either way, but
I would probably put the questions in the chat and we'll get back to them when we get to the Q&A so we don't forget about them, please.
great, awesome. So women lingerie, right? So I don't know anything about that. Remember, at this point, I'm just a guy that used to do like consulting. And I think that I'm like this like hot shit, which I'm not, by the way, at that point, uh, nor am I right now. But I just figure, hey, how hard can it be, right? I used to manage money. Now I'm just gonna go into retail. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. That failed completely, but I was lucky enough that at that point I still had the I was known within my class as the guy that won the entrepreneurship challenge and raised money, and that was kind of impressive at that point within those realms. So I figure, yeah, I'm just not gonna close down the company up until we know that it's actually going to completely fail. Because remember, we had the Bloomingdale deal, and we figure maybe we can stall it for a bit and wait for the US dollar to come down, which is obviously it's not gonna happen, but that was like the kind of thing. So I was like, okay, let's put this on hold and let's see what can we do about this. And so I start reaching out again. I figured the best way to go about this is to learn from people that have built big things. And so at that point, I went back, started looking for companies to work with and learn something about e-commerce or so. And Europe it's not the best place to build tech, in my opinion, but there's this kind of cluster in Dublin, right? And FANG companies, big tech like Apple, Google, you name it, they have all the clusters over there. So at that point, there was this company, little company by those standards called Dropbox, right? Nobody knew Dropbox. That was the thing. Obviously, they were founded way before that, but at this point, they weren't what they are right now. And so it was like an up and coming, at least on like the MBA graduate size. So I was like, interesting. These guys came from Silicon Valley. I used to work in tech. Maybe there's something here. Spoke with Dropbox. I was not planning this, but I got offered a job as the regional director for B2B business development in Latin America. And that was like insane. I was like, like this is amazing. Like I'm gonna pursue this. Like immediately I know that this was a big deal. I was more excited about what I was going to do rather than building a company at that point. So my my thing was like sure, why not? I can run the company on the side. I'll just give whatever equity she asked, like my co-founder asked out of me. I have no problem with that. And we can both benefit by learning how big enterprise companies work. And remember, like, this is young Santiago. Like, I don't know what I felt at that point, but I figured, yeah, better people. I'm gonna be with better people. Therefore, I can apply this to my business. Complete shit show. Obviously, company went down, and I remember posting the new job in LinkedIn. So I was like, listen, regional manager, whatever it is, at Dropbox. And immediately I received an inbox, sorry. Yeah, DM and LinkedIn. And it was the guy that I was working in the software studio. And he was like, Santi, like the founder. And he was like, Santi, what are you doing right now? I want to talk to you about this new company that we spun out of the retailers. Remember that you're working with El Corte Inglés. We decided to pursue the idea at the very beginning that was gigsters, right? The gig economy. We want to pursue that. We're gonna found some people that are just gonna bring deliveries on the side, and we're gonna make sure that's that. And obviously this guy is extremely convincing. He's just a master at that. And I'm pumped again, right? Like, this is the opportunity to go again back to the writing board. I just again, and not knowing anything, I just said to Dropbox, hey, I cannot do this anymore. Flew back to Colombia again, started working with this guy. Um, and first day I had like a box of donuts, and I had to give free donuts away in parking lots in order for people to download the app. And that was my new job. And I was so pumped, but I was like nuts because everyone was like, "Are you insane? Like, dude, you used to work in management consulting at a New York firm based from New York. Then you went back and you had another shot with a Silicon Valley company, and now you're back to nothing. You're insane." And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, but this seems interesting. I was more like, not that much about the money for me. It was more about the adventure and being able to do cool things. And so long story short, this company ends up becoming Rappi, which is the biggest like food tech company in Latin America by far, $6 billion plus company. We scaled the company from 7 people to 5,000 and something when I left, raised like $1.2 billion when I left. Again, I was not a founder whatsoever. I just was an early employee, and I led sales. And it was very fun. But I was pretty close to the founders. And so I was like, again, being me, how difficult can this be? Like, I know these guys, they're not like insanely like geniuses or anything. They're just like hustlers. I think I can do this. And so I decided to, again, I was like a sales director in the hottest company ever in Latin America for a while because they raised capital from Sequoia, everything. And I was like, let's do this. And so literally I went down into Facebook, and I remember very vividly DMing this guy that I studied with at some point, and he was building like this fitness app, right? And I was like, listen, I'm this and this. I'm like this big, like trying to look fancy, right? Like I'm this big guy in Rappi, and I'm like amazing, and you should work with me, and we should build this company that you're talking about launching together, and whatever. And long story short, I managed to convince the guy to bring me in as a co-founder, right? And so that was our first company. That company is called Fitball, still up and running. It's a profitable company, small company though. They do like $2 million AR or something like that right now. But that was our first thing. And so Julian, that's how I met Julian. I literally called DN him, and yeah, that was that. And so the company was growing. We were doing everything fine, and now at this point it's like 2020, so we've been working very hard like for 5 years in Fitball, right? I've led Rappi, we're leading the company, we expanded to 16 different countries, we have like 50,000 reservations. The app was very simple. For if anyone has used like ClassPass or GymPass, it's the same. It's just an app that allows you to go to every single gym in Latin America. That's what we did. And so 50,000 reservations, but the business model wasn't that great. Margins were not that great. Therefore, there was not that much money. And in the beginning, we directed the company B2C. So even worse, the business for the ones that were doing great. The leaders at that point were Gympass. They raised a bunch of capital and they decided to focus in wellness and pursue B2B, which was kind of the opposite that was like, yeah, what we were doing. And so I just saw Claudia message, but don't worry, I'm finishing here. And so we left that company. 2020 comes, everything gets destroyed by COVID. We had to talk with our investors, with the cap table, and they were like, "Yeah, this is basically we need to close this company." And we were so upset because we wanted to pursue Fitball further, but they were like so bearish on it, and we said like, "There's no way this company is gonna die." This was like kind of an ego thing. We're gonna bring this company to break even, and then we're gonna give them their company back. That was our thought, to be honest. And it ended up being that way. Obviously, it was a little harsh, but everyone got like their fair amount. The company's still up and running up to today. And now we're with Julian and we're like, what do we do now, right? Remote work seems to be a thing. So we decided to build a payroll manager. Long story short, got into Endeavor, got into Y Combinator, raised $40 million. Companies are $200 million company, $160 million company right now, doing amazing. They're killing it. 4 years in, literally, I almost died. Like almost died. For the first 4.5 years of the company, I was CEO, and suddenly I just started experiencing life in a different way. The condition that I developed is known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy. So imagine being seated down, having this call through Zoom, and suddenly your heart is at 150, 160 beats per minute. So what's basically happened to you is that you stop taking care of your health, you stop sleeping, you obsess about something, your body starts running on cortisol and adrenaline. Obviously, that affects your heart. And this is not a kind of thing that you notice like one day, but it's the on on the short term, what happens is that after a couple months of that, it ends up in a heart attack for sure. So for me, it was 12 months, like a year, full year of this all in. I'm gonna make this happen. We're gonna be the biggest, with everything that encompass being an entrepreneur. And literally, my heart gave out. Like literally, I had a breakdown. I had to be at the hospital. I was like medicated. I had to leave the company. Obviously, uh, I had to step down as CEO for sure. Otherwise, this is just completely responsible with all the people, my team, my co-founders, the investors, everyone. And that was like a soul crushing experience, because at some point entrepreneurs can go through the pain of failing and closing a business. But for me, this was the biggest thing that I've ever done, which is even bigger now that I'm not there. And I had to leave. And at that point, the worst thing is that your identity is the company. I was not Santiago, I was on top. So if the company was doing good, I was doing good. If the company was doing bad, I was doing bad. Uh, and my whole train of thought is my worth as a human being is completely correlated with how the company is doing. So if the company is doing bad, I'm a piece of shit human being. I don't deserve to die. That's literally how crazy things get. And so to close here and open the Q&A, what was crazy to me is that most of the time I try to be very direct and I try to share with everyone because, as you know, with all my story, I tend to be an optimist at heart. And so for me, it was pretty impressive that I was the only one that had experienced this. And I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to make you the story short. And I start reaching out to anyone that I knew, founders, big companies, small companies, huge companies. And secretly, all of them had went through something, if not the same, highly similar. They just don't talk about it. And I was like, this is insane. So I immediately reached out to Claudia and I said, like, listen, it's not that I'm broken or that something happened to me. It's just that it happens to everyone, but nobody wants to talk about it. And this is what the facts stop. And I'm going to stop my story here, but this is my conclusion to it. I think that we're living in a place in time in which suffering and going through hard situations, at least in the hustle culture that involves the tech community, are seen as badges of honor. So you need to die literally in order to be someone. And people start joking about that and they make it as if it were what it needs to happen to you in order to succeed, which is completely false, by the way. And then when it happens to people, they're so ashamed. They feel broken. They don't know what happened to them. Their whole identity vanishes in 1 second that they just prefer to keep it quiet and not tell anyone. And yeah, it's soul crushing. I literally almost died. It took me the most part of 7, 8 months to be myself again. And this is, for me at this point, is like, I'm going insane because as someone that used to be accustomed to run at 100,000 miles per hour every day, to go to zero that fast, uh, you can imagine how that goes. But yeah, leaving you with that story, it happens to most of people that are building companies, especially in tech. When it happens, people don't talk about it because they feel ashamed. And everybody thinks that's just not happening to everyone. And then the culture uh, seems to mock those aspects in order to make you seem strong. And you can feel it everywhere. When you go to an entrepreneur meeting, everyone's going to tell you, I'm fine, we're killing it, this is the best thing that happened. Everyone's like bawling out. And in reality, everyone's broken. Everyone's like, I'm gonna die. This is insane. And yeah, that is real thing. Uh Long story short, just I think that something needs to change. So I, again, me being me, became obsessed. And I was like, I don't want to renounce being ambitious. I still want to build things. But there needs to be someone in this planet that has figured this out. So I started looking, went everywhere, different countries. As always, ended up being in San Francisco, which is where most of the tech folks get together. And I met a guy that's actually trying to solve that problem. His name is Brian Johnson. He sold Venmo for $800 million, and he's now trying to not die. And his whole thing is that you can be both. You can be extremely ambitious and you can be the healthiest person on earth. And what's coming with AI is going to enable you to become a better human being. But a huge part of that is how mentally are you prepared for that? Obviously, physically as well. But yeah, now I'm working with him and we're going to launch something in the space of longevity tech. But before that, I had to die. I both mentally and physically, and hopefully everything goes fine and all right. But that's a story.
Well, let's say you didn't die and you're here with us. So thank you for sharing your story. Before we go into a couple of questions, what made you, once you were in, you touched bottom, you almost died. Your board of directors and your co-founder and your wife intervened, so you stepped down from on top of CEO. And then now what do you do with your life, right? Your identity's tied. What made you, where did you find the strength during those 7-8 months to, connect with yourself with Santiago again? And what changed completely your mindset to understanding that your identity is not tied to your business?
Oh, that's actually a great question, and I'm gonna answer it in two different parts. Part number one, I didn't step off the company because I wanted to. I basically was told that I had two options. I wanted to, people were extremely kind with me. I couldn't ask for a better co-founder, for a better board of directors, for a better wife, but the message was clear, was you're gonna die. You need to choose. What do you want? If it was for me, I would stay in the company and die. That's the crazy part. At that point, you're just like drunk on that vision. And I'm an A-type personality. That means that I'm very aggressive when I'm pursuing something. And so the idea of leaving the company didn't cross my mind. If an employee or someone or my investors reach out to me and try to talk about how I was doing, I would rip their head off. I was like, sorry for the word, you're a pussy. You need to strengthen up. We're gonna follow through. This is just going to happen. And again, you can see this when Claudia reached to me and proposed to me going to that retreat. I was like, I don't have time for that. I need to make more money. Like this business needs more money. And so that's the attitude. And to take someone from that position, they're just gonna die. That's what happens essentially. I didn't step down. My wife and my family presented me with an intervention accompanied by my co-founder, and they told me to choose. And that was hard. I ended up choosing the ones that I love, obviously. But yeah, it was not me being like, yeah, I understand this is happening. Like, not like that. And then the second part, which is how did I recover the strength? I didn't. I didn't. Uh, you just go one day at a time. Everyone's shit. You try to talk to as much people as possible, and you try to find the people that have gone through something similar. I was lucky enough that I connected with Claudia and she told me her story, and I was literally like amazed about she almost died like in a completely different way. That's her story. I'm not gonna go into there, but I was amazed, and I was like, I need to learn from people that went back to the game. How do they do it? And it's not easy. It's not exact science. Again, you need to rebuild yourself day by day, and you need to make yourself accountable for a very simple to-do list. Maybe your to-do list as a CEO, entrepreneur were like huge things, then those things become very irrelevant almost. Like, I need to wake up, I need to brush my teeth, I need to shower, those things. And those things start piling up, they start compounding, you start talking to people that went through it, and it starts getting back to me day by day. I wouldn't say I'm completely back to myself, but at least I'm now excited about building something else. So yeah, it's the best answer I can give you. Sorry for that.
And are you ready to build something else without burning out? Do you have tools that you can share with everyone to prevent going there again?
I think I'm not the best to be an example for that, because again, I think that my mindset is very, my mind works like a drug addict, right? I need someone to be all in. So right now, I went all into my biomarkers. So I get like the Aura Ring and the Whoop, and I'm tracking everything, and I'm now obsessed with optimizing my sleep, and so that's why I'm sick that I'm not the best. It's just that I'm now addicted to optimize my health, and I've dropped like 30 pounds, and my VO2 max is through the moon, and I'm just feeling better. But this it's it's not the best example because it's the same behavior. I need to work in myself, and I'm doing so with therapy, obviously, Because the answer is not to become like Superman, right? To be invincible. The answer is to work through your problems and understand why you need to be addicted to things and so embedded in progress in order to feel like you're worth it. That's the actual problem that I need to solve. So yeah, not the best thing, not the best one to answer the question, but what I'm doing is obsessing about my health nowadays. And I mean, working with Brian Johnson, if any of you have seen their videos, it's like it's hyper, like you go down the rabbit hole that way.
Okay. Well, let's open to questions. Does anyone have questions for Santiago? Because I have many. Okay, I just see Roberto Zuluaga said that this happened to him when he was 32. And then thank you, Victoria, for saying that this resonates with you. So if we don't have any questions, I just wanted to say, oh, Adriana, you have a question.
Hi, Santiago. I hear that you have two companies raising money and with all of these, a lot of challenges during that time. In your personal experience, what do you think that was your really, I understand that you almost died, but in this journey to recover yourself, your self-esteem, which was the best thing that you did to recover yourself, believing in you?
Thank you, Adriana. Great question.
It's a great question, and that's what I'm so I just want to think for 10 seconds and give you an answer because it's actually a very good question.
I founded a company during 25 years. 4 years ago, I exit from the company. It took me like 2 years to recover to me that I can do again another thing. Because at the beginning, you are trying to work by yourself, but I have a team, a big team, because my company was like 1,600 employees, something like that. And during that time, I was involved in different things. But to convince me again that I can make that, start from crash, it takes me time. And at the beginning, I tried to do by myself, but then I have therapists, mentors, and coaches. But at the end, depends on you. Depends on you. And that's when I was asking that. Because 100%. I think that my son, for example, is something that pushed me to believe more in me that I can do that. But just for that, I'm asking you. I think the part of, I think that I can make sooner if I have the therapy at the beginning.
I agree. In my eyes, to be completely honest with you, I think that two things changed. One thing, when you actually believe that you're going to die, which I did, because the condition wasn't getting any better in the first months of me stepping out. So I was just, every time I was waking up waiting for the heart attack, literally. And then you kind of recover. First question you ask yourself is, okay, what I'm going to do with this opportunity that I was given. So that was one thing. And secondly, I stopped being so focused on me having to be the quote unquote man, like trying to make it for everyone to be okay, and start focusing in the people that I loved. So I started spending a lot of time with my family and my wife that I honestly wasn't doing before. Reason being is that I thought that those things wouldn't allow the company to grow. As crazy as it sounds, that was my rationale, right? Every single second of my time needs to be allocated in something that's going to help the company's revenue grow. And if I'm not doing that, it's not worth my time. And that destroys you from the inside, you not knowing that. So two things, knowing that you had another opportunity, that was one thing. And the second thing was focusing in people that you love, and you realize that that's like infinite times like worth your time than pursuing anything else.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Patricia.
Thank you, Claudia. So the question I had is coming to my mind all the time is, Santiago, how are you feeling today? How do you feel? How do you cope now with the cortisol? Because you are still busy.
100%. Yeah, that's what I mentioned, that I'm not the best example. I'm like an addict. So I'm definitely not feeling I think that before I was very narcissistic, and I'm still
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic to this day, right? It's just a fact, and I need to work on it and try to use it to my advantage, or be more humble or whatever. But that narcissism made me feel as if I was immortal. Nothing could touch me.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, I feel fragile. I'm not like before, like, yeah, I'm immortal. I'm not like that. I'm more cautious about the decisions that I make. I try to put the people that I love first, but that doesn't mean that I'm still not a narcissist at heart, because at some point when you manage, it's like every time I'm working in a puzzle and something clicks, I'm just drawn to it. Like, I still got it. I need to pursue this. And then like the whole engine starts like steaming ahead. So the difference is that I'm more aware of the damage, not only that I'm doing to myself, but people around me. And so I'm cautious, but that's not to say that the engine's still not in the back of my mind, like telling me, just jump back into the game again.
So do you have
Okay.
any tools, to piggyback on Patricia, any tools that, because you're very aware, you keep saying, you know, I have this addiction to workaholic, you know, you love work and you go all in. So what are the tools that you apply to help? Okay, I'm not gonna go to burnout again because I can die. What happens in your mind to prevent going there?
It's going to be very boring, because within my OCD, I have like a protocol, and that protocol gives me like certain amount of minutes that I need to do in therapy, but I don't trust therapy alone. So I mixed a lot, and again, experimental. It's just my opinion.
It's your
Uh,
toolbox. It's your toolbox.
I like to input all of those sessions I recorded with Granola, and I upload it into ChatGPT. And so it gives me like therapy to the 100th. And so that's also, I have a very strict health protocol, and we tend to work with my wife in time slots that we allow ourselves to be together without any work, which for me, that was just not crazy. Like, for someone to tell me like, yeah, you need to be stepping out for some time, was not a thing. So everything is quantified. I'm very OCD, and so yeah, I have a protocol that allows me to every week go through some amount of time through therapy, compute that with AI, also combined with a very structured, um, I guess, physical protocol as well. And I've found that when your body is better, it's easier to recover mentally, because you have more strength to pursue what you need to do within your mind. Whereas when you're weak and maybe not as healthy, it's difficult to find the willpower or the energy to start fighting your demons. So that's what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I'll keep you up to date if it works.
Thank you for being
I,
very
I want to
vulnerable.
share a tool with you because you mentioned the narcissism. Have you heard about the Enneagram?
I have not. I read. I've been like very deep into like different books. Some of them Claudia introduced me
How
to.
can we connect? How can we connect with you? I will send you something.
Oh, if anyone wants to connect with
The
me, I'll just put
Enneagram.
my personal email here. That's
Put your email there and you can share Enneagram. It's a way to, and also the other thing that's very powerful is understanding your human design. You know, this was
Mhm.
created by Singularity University. So you can also pull your human design to understand who are you, you know, what are your archetypes? How do you function? Because you have certain patterns and programs and we're all very different. So understanding your human design or your Enneagram can help you relate with other people.
This is actually a complete different call that we could expand hours talking about, but I guess the answer that I would have is, for me, right now, the mental aspect of my well-being is too abstract. So I'm more comfortable living in the physical realm. Therefore, if I'm focused on longevity, it's going to give me the strength, the energy, and the ability to feel better in order to deal with that. But the reason why I keep Headspace and not the app, like literal Headspace in the back of my mind, is because it's difficult to me to find KPIs to track progress. Whereas longevity, health,
It's more tangible.
literally you can follow the numbers and see how you're getting better in real time. But I should definitely go into the mental aspect harder for sure.
Leslie?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Santiago, for sharing everything. It has been super mind opener. I'm just curious, let's go back when you end up in the hospital. What was causing it? Like lack of sleep? You mentioned you lost a lot of weight. Were you eating randomly? Were you overeating, not sleeping? You already said that you were fully focused on the business and you were not spending time with your family. But what was actually the things that make you sick?
It was a lack of sleep, malnourishing my eating habits. By this, I mean eating fast food. And I wouldn't say that I would do like drugs or alcohol, because my addiction has always been directed towards revenue generation, to be very specific. But I can understand how someone could derail for that and like focus that addiction to someone else. The drop that it was an episode. There was an episode. This was not like something that happened. The last week of the 12 months that I mentioned, I had an episode in which I couldn't sleep for 9 straight days. Could not. And literally I went into a psychotic state.
Oh.
And I almost died, because literally if you lose sleep for more than 7 days in a row, it's like
But you couldn't sleep because you were busy or because your
anxious,
mind?
very anxious. My mind was
Okay,
going,
anxiety. So what caused the whole thing was anxiety
my
drawn from
ability to live
your,
in the present and
okay,
start focusing into what was going to happen next and how can I control that in order to be the outcome that I wanted. Is that put me in an
okay,
anxious position that made me,
okay,
yeah, that blew my heart. Because
okay,
anxiety allows you to store cortisol, and then you have a personality that is addictive to stress all the time. So you fulfill your body with adrenaline. You combine this with a year doing that, plus a final episode in which you cannot sleep 9 days, and then literally my heart blew out. It's like, I don't know if it's like a pre-heart attack or something like that. It's like
something.
the actual thing that happened in that. But when that happened, after that episode, that's when my co-founder, my wife, and my family got me to get like, hey, listen, this is another thing, right? This is something that we need to take seriously.
But the company was doing great.
The
It
company
was
was
just,
amazing. I mean,
it
the
was
company is still doing
your
great.
obsession. The anxiety was caused by your obsession for this company to keep growing or to maintain it.
Comparison is the thief of joy. So obviously, I'm not comparing to
Oh,
myself. I'm comparing to the big ones. So I see
of course.
Google and Rippling raising billions of dollars, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I have a shitty $100 million company. This is bullshit. Everyone's
Okay,
doing
okay,
things bigger. Everyone's building better. Everyone's like their revenue is 10x, and we only 2x this year. Like, I'm just literally a piece of shit in
okay.
my mind.
So you couldn't see the good. You couldn't see the
No,
wonderful things that actually you did achieve with your co-founders. So
no,
it's like you were blinded by
100%,
comparing yourself with somebody much, 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 way much bigger than that.
100%.
Thank you. Thank you for
It
sharing.
is very common, Leslie, very, very common. It's in the founder space. There's that, you know, some people put founders in a pedestal. Oh, I want to be like Steve Jobs one day, or like
Okay.
get there. And so that obsession with being someone, so it's ingrained in your mind, and that drives all this workaholic and stress
Okay.
induced.
I remember very specific. I even raised like big money and I was like, this is not enough. And then the next day I was
Okay.
like, again, this is nothing. Or we were talking about like, we need to IPO. It's like
Oh my God. Yeah.
crazy. It's insanity.
Thank you for sharing. So it reminds me, in the previous days, when we were talking about raising funds, the mentor said, it's okay if you don't, if you're a small business and you want to stay like that, as long as you're happy. I mean, you don't need to become the next big
But
tech. You
you know
don't need to, but it's difficult, right?
what's crazy about what you said is that you listen to that and you say, oh, okay, that's nice. In those days, I would listen to that and I would listen as a challenge. Also, you're telling me that I'm not able to do that. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do it. So if
That's bullshit.
someone told me, you that's okay, don't worry. I was like, what? And my reading of the situation is like, you think I cannot do it. You actually are putting me
Oh,
down.
okay.
That's what
Okay.
I
I
felt.
understand. Thank you. Thank you. It's a
Um,
personality, I think.
Yeah, it's being
We have a question from Luigi.
Hey man. So I guess number one will be, I think it's pretty awesome that you're coming up and sharing all of that, because in a much different situation, I kind of feel what you're saying. But at that moment I was doing therapy and my therapist said, you either quit, because I was working for a big company, right? You either quit or you get sick. So it's up to you, right?
Yeah.
And it took me 4 months, 4 to 5 months to make the decision of quitting, right? Because you have all of those things in your mind, and and then you like to add a little bit of salt and pepper just to make it more spicy, and you to torture yourself a little more, right? So I guess now my question for you is, how do you cope with the fact that you had, when you make that decision and you had the interaction with the company? So how do you cope with the fact that you were like, okay, I achieved these things, right? Because a part of you is like, it's not enough, but a part of you is recognizing what you have achieved so far, I'm sure, right? And then with, I gotta start back again, and I'm not this guy anymore. So how do you cope with that, and how do you keep yourself check, knowing that eventually you're gonna get it again on a much more healthier way, if that makes sense? I don't know if
That
the
makes
question
complete
is
sense. And
okay. Okay.
I mean, I just think that all the questions that I've had today, you guys are in a way better position and I are way more aware of what I was. I wouldn't even consider therapy. If you were talking to me about therapy, I was like, this is for the weak man. I don't want that. Like, what's that? Like, don't even start talking about even someone like in my team, they were talking about therapy or something, I would just literally stop the meeting and left. Like, I don't need this shit. I need to produce more money. So I know that this might sound extreme, but this is what people truly think in their mind. They're just not are spoken about it. Many people that are hyperachievers, they just simply don't care about that. But obviously, everyone's politically correct and they, yeah, I'm going to see my therapy. And when in reality, you talk to them like privately and they're like, fuck therapy, this is worthless. We need to make more money. And then you're, yeah, let's make more money. And then you put each other into a different category and that's how things blows out. That's the first question. But the the thing that actually put me through is that at some point I'm very rational, as I mentioned. So when someone's telling you that something's wrong, you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. When two people tell you that, when three people, when four people, when your wife, when your co-founder, that you're like, whoa, like this is a pattern. I must be the one that I'm broken. So that's first step one. Step two is like, I didn't want to kill my ego. So at this point, you need to remember, I'm still my company. So I'm willing to sacrifice myself if this means that the company gets to leave. So if I stand down as CEO, I know that my co-founder is completely capable. He's a machine. Well, more rounded than me. He actually takes care of his health and mental health. And so the companies, in order for the company to do better, this is what I need to do. Is the best thing for me, is the best thing for my co-founders, the best thing for my investors, is the best thing for my team. So it comes a moment in which, again, it might seem novel, but it comes from narcissism. It's like, yeah, so the company is the best thing, you need to take care of that, even if that means that you die. And people would sell it to you as, yeah, I was humble enough to step down. That was not the case at all. And you need to be also grateful that people were strong enough to confrontate you and tell you that you're crazy, and to step on that, and even sometimes fight with you about it, because in that mentality you need people to be harsh, and yeah, you end up understanding is like sooner or later, just you're just grateful to have those people in your life. I'm very grateful that I have very strong people around me that allowed me to, yeah, figure that that was actually a mistake.
And have you saved those relationships with the people that say with your, you know, former employees, the people that you were kind of, let's just say, mean to it?
I think that relationships evolve and they're never the same. Obviously, in the case of my co-founder, we are, in the best of our ability, friends, but it's definitely not like it was before, because before we were brothers, like we created something from zero. And so something happens and that breaks, it's never the same. But I've seen companies in which this goes bad and people hate each other and there's lawyers involved. This was not the case. I was fortunate enough that everything that happened to me was actually very, I wouldn't say understandable, but everyone was extremely interested in my health being and helped me towards that. My investors, my board, my co-founder, everyone did. And even though it was a hard situation, they were great human beings, and I still talk to them, just not in the sense that we're excited about building together something anymore.
Gotcha.
Well, it's 12 and I know you have to go, Santiago, but I just wanted to thank you for your openness and vulnerability. We spoke a little bit about that earlier, the importance of being authentic and, you know, taking off the mask, because we have all these insecurities. So we don't want to show up as our authentic self to protect our own, you know, not to get hurt. And that is very normal, but we need to make it not normal. So how do we become conscious? And I think you've done tremendous work. I'm just being aware of your situation and how you got out of it, and now working on yourself, because you're very conscious and aware where you are and what are your strengths and weaknesses and how you're working through them so that you can, you know, continue living a mindful life. And even if it's through longevity, you know, you found the right tools that work for you. And you know that in the next step, you're going to be working more on your mental health, right? Right now it's your physical, but both integrated are very powerful once you're ready. So thank you again, Santiago. I hope everybody enjoyed hearing, you know, even though it wasn't, well, it's a positive story, because here you are alive and now working on longevity. So you are creating an impact in the world. So thank you for continue with your strength to wanting to, you know, be an entrepreneur and help your new business grow. So
Yeah,
all the best of luck with you. And we shared Santiago's email in the chat in case you want to reach out. But again, thank you very much. And yeah, I'll see you soon, hopefully.
awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, Santiago. So before we all go, just final reminders, this has been recorded, will be shared on YouTube in case you want to share with friends or you want to go back and hear it again. It's going to be in our YouTube channel. I was able to, you know, go through some of the topics a little bit more superficial, but if any of you want to go more in depth, I'm here for you also if you want to talk to me. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm fully dedicating a lot of my life to it, helping just human beings be more conscious about the importance of, well-being, mental health, and how to live a more joyful life. And again, I can, tell you so many stories of my own personal stories of burnout, and not only that, health issues that I've had and how I'm taking care of myself. And I can guarantee you that nutrition is very important. And yes, stress kills. So remind yourselves that it's important to take time off to lower your cortisol and find, tools or things that bring you joy and lower, your stress level, so you can live a more mindful life. And a thank you to all of you who have shared and also been open in the chat about your own personal experiences. Before I go, do you have any final comments or questions for me? Let me see. Okay.
Claudia,
Yes.
do you have anybody that you can recommend that is kind of a business life coach? I mean, not necessarily psychologist for the everyday life, but mostly for like work environment, entrepreneurial life environment.
Yes, we can share. Oh, Luigi can share. Luigi, you have one?
So there's a couple of things that I will recommend, and not to self-selling, but to ask a question. So there's a lady that I know that she's tremendous. She has a lot of experience in coaching and all of that. She's a psychologist, 35 years of her experience. If you're in Miami, you can see her in person, or if you want to do like a Zoom session, she will be open to it. Her sister, though, she's also a well-known coach in Colombia. But she can give you, more details about it. So if you want to, I can.
Can you put it on the chat?
Yeah,
Would you?
I'll give you. I'll give all the contact info, and or if you want to test the app that I built for that, that's also great.
I do. I will. Yes. Put it up here, please.
The other thing I'm going to do, we have a incredible coaches in our Endeavor network. So I'm going to organize a workshop at our office, and I'm going to invite all of you at some point this year so that you can learn a little bit from an incredible coach that's helping transform lives. And he went through massive burnout himself. And I think that's what happens when people go through these massive burnouts or face almost near-death experiences. We come out on the other side, becoming advocates on speaking up and asking for help and sharing our stories. So he will do the same, but he has very tangible tools you can implement also for your daily lives.
Thank you.
So I'm going to invite all of you once I organize it, okay?
Gracias.
Okay, if I don't have anything else, I would love to give some time back to all of you. And I appreciate you showing up today and participating in this powerful, and hopefully it was helpful for all of you to take some tools and even start thinking about what you want to incorporate into your lives so that you can also prevent burnout and manage your work-life balance in a better way. So all the best to all of you. It was great having you participate today, but as you know, the bootcamp will continue. There's 3 more great days ahead of you, so good luck. And you know where to find me here at Endeavor. So have a great day, rest of your day. Bye, everyone.